I feel like I'm living in a bizarro world. So Paul Finebaum, noted Miami hater, is now defending the Miami Hurricanes. Is this real life?
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, your host. I'm a University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, including pregame and postgame for Miami Hurricanes football. And thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. So, unbelievable. First take from SEC Media Days yesterday, and it wasn't the regular talking heads. Paul Finebaum was on it, who's Mr. SEC. He's had some not so nice things to say about Miami over the years. Dan Orlovsky was on the panel, and they were talking with Chris Mad Dog Russo. And boy, does that dude hate the University of Miami, the city of Miami. He hates all of our guts. So they were talking about which teams the SEC should add, even though the SEC says they don't want to expand any further. It's still, I don't know if I believe them. And so they bring up Miami, and Paul Finebaum actually had our back talking about how Miami's a big brand. That's a school that they should add in the future. Miami moves the needle. And then this Mad Dog Russo, he starts yammering about how it's a terrible sports town, Miami, empty stadium every single game. They haven't been relevant since the 1980s, their program, which is ridiculous hyperbole because, they've won a championship in 2001. Haven't been relevant since the 1980s. And then he starts to talk about how Mario Cristobal, overrated, hasn't done anything, hasn't won anything. And he compared Mario Cristobal to Manny Diaz, which it made my head explode. Like, guys, I had to just stitch my head back together because my head exploded all over my room when I'm watching this. But the crazier part of it, because Chris Russo can say what he wants to, right? He's trying to just get ratings. It's what he's been doing for 40 years, this guy. The fact that Paul Finebaum actually becomes the guy who defends Miami, that goes to show how crazy it was what Russo was saying. And Dan Orlovsky was defending Miami as well. And Finebaum mentioned rightfully, even if Miami Stadium may not be full every single Saturday, it's the TV money that moves the needle more so than attendance. And yeah, that Mario Cristobal guy that you're talking about, that you're trashing, first of all, what has he ever won? Okay, he hasn't won natties, but 2 Pac-12 titles in 4 years. Is that nothing? The fact that this guy, as Finebaum said, learned under Nick Saban and is one of the most relentless recruiters in the country. Clearly, Mad Dog Russo is not paying attention to the $8 million assistant coaching staff that Miami now has, the $100 million plus upgrades in facilities Miami's going to be putting in from this point forward. So it's absurd. We know it's absurd. Let me bring on our special guest, Larry Blustein, a man who has been covering South Florida high school sports and recruiting at a high level for so long. He is one of the absolute best in the business. So, Blue, obviously, I didn't bring you on here to try to support Chris Russo's points or argue with them because we both know that they're absurd. But one of the many reasons why I wanted to bring you on today is you are always out there. You're covering camps. You're covering high school games. And obviously, high school games haven't been happening since Cristobal came on board, but camps and events have been happening. So you actually see Cristobal and his staff out there. Talk to me about the work that they've been doing in Florida and around Florida on the recruiting scene.
Oh, before I get into that, let me just address the Mad Dog comment. And the one thing is, I mean, he's got no room to talk because New York is a cesspool of the United States. So if he's cutting down the University of Miami and the Miami itself, come on. You tell me where people would much rather vacation. Miami and South
or live. Beach. Every New Yorker wants to live here.
Yeah, exactly. And he really knows nothing about college football, so I don't really validate anything that he says. And think about it. I mean, he knows nothing. And when you just made a great point, he doesn't know anything about what's going on here in Miami, nor does a lot of people. And that's why People are jealous of what's going on. People are taking shots at what's going on. And, Paul Finebaum, as much as people want to hate him or not, does his homework. He's in a very, very tough conference where he can't just spew out anything. So he has to do your fact checking, and you know what? I mean, the very fact that he came to Miami's defense is just the reality of things, because he understands that, first of all, and I said this over and over again, Miami's one of the largest TV markets. They would be the largest TV market along with Nashville if they did join the SEC. So I don't know where he's coming from. And the whole thing, as we discussed last week, I kind of hope the ACC doesn't disband, because in Boston and Charlotte and Atlanta and Miami, you have 4 of the largest TV markets of any college football conference. So that's where I go. Let me segue into what you asked me. I've told you this many, many times. I've been to so many events. In fact, I got a chance to see well over 300 schools. I had an opportunity to see well over 3,000 players since April.
Wow.
Kind of hit the ground running. So, and then I watch a lot of film as well. I spent a lot of times on the sideline with the University of Miami coaches. I've said it, Charlie Strong, who I've known for a lot of years, good dude, knows his stuff. We sat there and many a times during the spring and debated some of the players, and we had talked about some of the kids. Coach Gaddis, who I remember back at his playing days at Wake Forest, where he was a defensive back, and now he's one of the premier offensive minds in the country, arguably one of the best. And then obviously Mario Cristobal. I have an opportunity to talk to him quite a bit. And, same guy as when he was 16 years old or 15 and a half years old that I met at Columbus, and I've known him ever since. And, the one thing about Mario's not just a dumb jock football player. He's got 2 degrees. Right. He's a very intelligent guy. He thinks outside the box. And for anybody to say that he's overrated is stupid. It's not even up for discussion. What he's done, he built that Oregon program. It was left not in the greatest shape, by Willie Taggart and a couple of people before them. They were an average team, and he elevated and he went and recruited, and that's a strong suit. And I've said that all along. And what he's done by getting Frank Ponce and Mirabal and Coach Steele and all these guys that he's brought in, is get great recruiters and guys who are, think just like he does. And I'll share a story that I was sitting at one of the jamborees or kickoff classics during the spring with Charlie Strong. And we sat there, and one of the coaches from another school, I don't want to name the school, but they came over and we were talking about time put in, on the job. And the guy said, well, we get in there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we're out of there, a little after 12. And Charlie says, you mean 12 midnight? He goes, no, 12 in the afternoon. And Charlie goes, holy mackerel. He says, you don't have a job, you have a vacation. And see, and that's the thing. Everybody at Miami buys in with getting in there at 5 o'clock and working their butts off. And even when, during the spring where there's not more to do, from their standpoint, but recruit, that's what they're doing. They're going to different, they're going to California. If you're one of the coaches that deal with some of the California kids, you're going to the Midwest, you're going to the East, you're going all throughout the state of Florida. So it's a job. And, I'm close to a couple of the coaches on staff like Charlie and obviously Mirabel, who I've known, quite some time as well. And obviously Coach Ponce, who I watched play quarterback at Miami High, and I've watched him as an assistant with Mario at FIU, and then going to App State and really carving out something for himself, going to Louisville and then coming back to App State as an offensive coordinator, and then coming down to South Florida. Great mind. So that's the one thing I've observed. You can't compare this staff or this regime to anybody else, because there's a whole different ballgame. These are guys who've been there, done that, have proven at this level that they can win, that they can coach, and that they can recruit.
Yeah, and it's like an all-star cast of assistant coaches. I mean, all those names you mentioned, even not graduate assistant, analysts like Jason Taylor having a Pro
Oh yeah.
Football Hall of Famer on the staff. Ed Reed's involved. It's insane.
Roland Smith, Alonzo Highsmith,
Yeah,
on and on and on and on.
yeah,
And everybody wants to be a part of it. And every time that they go out recruiting, since Jason Taylor and guys like that can't go out because obviously they're in-house guys, but they use their names when they go out
yes,
recruiting, and they find a defensive end, and they'll say, "Hey, why don't you go plug in a YouTube of Jason Taylor and see what
Yeah.
he's all about, and see what he did during his career, and see what he did at St. Thomas to take somebody like a Nick Bonito, who was a good player, to turn him into an NFL type of player. He got drafted, this April. Proven people, and that's the way. Frank Ponce, who's done a tremendous job coordinating. He came within a field goal to beating Miami last year with
Hmm.
Appalachian State. So you have guys, Alex, that are proven people. So when they go out recruiting, even though they use all the resources, Alonzo Highsmith, you said Ed Reed, pop in an Ed Reed tape from the Baltimore Ravens and see
That
if that
was a
guy
big one,
doesn't.
Blue. That just came up recently. Nicholas Harbor at the Under Armour event. Everybody wants him, including Miami, the
Sure.
five-star athlete who's going to end up being a defensive end. But he grew up in Maryland, big Baltimore Ravens fan. Ed Reed, one of his favorite players. They got him on the phone with Ed Reed. It was like it must have been like heaven for that
Crazy,
guy.
crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah, and I like I said, this is the type of guy. If you're a defensive end like Miami with Jaden Wayne, when they were recruiting him, I'm sure that a certain Hall of Famer got on the phone and goes, "Hey, we
Yeah.
need you down here. I've seen you play. We could refine a few things, and you could be on your way to doing a lot of the things that I did." And those kids want to hear that. Believe me, I don't care how elite they are, because a lot of them, the days of them being full of themselves and thinking that they're bigger than the organization are over, because they know what's at stake. And I think that's a theme, this spring and into the summer at Miami, is to understand what the future and paint the future. Sure, they've been 7-6 and such in the last couple of years, but I think what the future holds is a program that can't help but get better, because you have so many moving parts that have been successful.
Guys, you have to keep it locked right here to Locked On Canes, because Blue, he studies so much film and he studies so many games and camps in person. I've got to ask him about a number of Miami targets. We're going to talk about players like Malik Bryant, Joenel Aguero, Peyton Kirkland. They all announced this weekend. Olaus, Alinen, Jayden Bonsu, who did push his announcement back, as we talked about yesterday. So I hope you guys weren't surprised to see him say that he's pushing his announcement back. I want to talk about Christopher Johnson, the running back from Dillard. There are a lot of players we need to get to right after we talk about Built Bar. From the people who invented healthy and tasty comes the latest gift to your taste buds. You probably tried the amazing coconut brownie chunk Built Bar. Guess what? Your friends at Built have given coconut brownie chunk the Puffs treatment. I love the Puffs. That puff flavor, it's the flavor you love in a deliciously chewy marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. It's like a fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness. They're good for you as well, guys. Low calorie, low sugar, high protein, and all delicious. Coconut brownie chunk puffs are only here for a limited time, so go to built.com right now, as I just did this morning, to make sure you do not miss out. They are going fast because they taste amazing. All Built Bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. The best part about Built Puffs is, of course, they taste amazing, but you can enjoy them guilt-free because they're actually good for you. They are the perfect treat. Perfect when you've got a craving. I've got a sweet tooth. I get those cravings. You need to satisfy your sweet tooth, or you need a quick, healthy snack. They're an excellent source of protein, guys. Delicious coconut, rich, sweet brownie, creamy marshmallow. Stop fantasizing and get to built.com to order your box of coconut brownie chunk Built Puffs. Go to built.com. Use our promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Use promo LOCKED15. Hey, which NFL stars move the betting line the most? This week, Locked On gives you the 50 most valuable players in the NFL from the odds makers at BetOnline. It's available this week on Locked On NFL, wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube. We are available free wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back to Locked On Canes. Alex Donno alongside Larry Blustein, South Florida High School Sports Show every Monday on 560 WQAM. Blue does a terrific job on that platform. Now, Blue, we've got a number of players announcing their commitments this weekend and over the next several weeks. Out of the ones coming up the next few days, there's a few players I feel good about for Miami, but the one that I feel best about in terms of picking Miami, four-star linebacker out of Jones High School in Orlando, Malik Bryant. I've got a good feeling about Miami landing Bryant. He's going to be announcing on Saturday. Do you share my good feelings, first of all? And second of all, this is a player I know you've watched in person. Give Canes fans their fill of what to expect.
Yeah, I have that feeling too. Coach Elijah Williams up at Jones, he and I talked during the fall and of last year, and then during the summer this year when we saw him at in Orlando at the UCF 7-on-7, and we talked about Malik and what type of player he is, and what instincts that he has, and how physical he is, and what he brings to a team. I mean, this is a guy that, to me, is one of the defining recruits because of the fact that it's a position of need. It's really a position of need. I know Miami needs this and that, but linebacker is. I mean, we kind of, since Pinckney and Quarterman, they really haven't had those big guys. Now they have a couple of kids coming in with Moss and also Wesley Besaint that can do some really good things in the future. But you got to keep adding to it. And I think Malik is one of those guys that understands that when he gets on campus, he's going to be right in the mix. He's going to be right in the mix. Not going to, obviously he won't start, but he's going to be in that mix to play and get a lot of snaps. And especially if he comes in early, it's going to be a spring that is going to really highlight what he's all about. I'm excited for him. I think he picks Miami because of the fact that Miami fits his scheme. He's comfortable with it. Same colors that they wore in high school, green and orange.
I've noticed that on the pictures. I'm like, this guy, he already looks good in orange and green.
He already looks the part. So, yep, I like him a lot. I think he'll add a lot to this program. Good kid, got a chance to talk to him, but Coach Williams and a lot of the people up that area, Coach Pruitt and some of the guys that I deal with that know him and vouch for him 1,000,000,000%.
There's a couple of safeties that Miami fans are starting to sweat over because we get greedy. We want all the commits. We've gotten so many over the last month and a half. We want all the 4 and 5 stars to commit. So you've got Jaden Bonsu, he's pushed his announcement back, was planning to announce today, Wednesday. He's been trending heavily to Miami, but Canes fans always get concerned when you see somebody who's trending to you for whatever reason they decide to push the announcement back. I've heard Ohio State is making a big push for him. Ohio State's also making a big push for another safety Miami's after, and that's 5-star Joenel Aguero from Massachusetts. These are both Northeastern kids, New Jersey and Massachusetts. And Aguero is an interesting one, Blue, because, I talked to a lot of people who cover different teams who are in these recruiting battles. Everybody seems to think he's picking their school. Like you talk to someone from Georgia, oh, he's coming to Georgia. You talk to somebody from Ohio State, no, he's coming here. You talk to people who cover Miami, I think he's coming to Miami. I talked to somebody who covers Florida, and he thinks they're getting good vibes for Joenel Aguero, which was kind of out of left field for me. I'm like, Florida, they've been missing on everybody, Florida. But so talk to me a little bit about Bonsu and Aguero.
Well, let's talk about Bonsu first. Rangy guy who could hit you. He's got cover skills, which really helps, but he supports the run extremely well, comes up and will make plays. And if he has to take a tight end or even a running back out of the backfield, on a wheel route that maybe is inside, not to the corner spot, he's fast enough, he's agile enough, and he's athletic enough to match up. He loves to hit. He loves to fly around the ball, can play on both sides of the ball. So he's athletic, and I like him a lot. And, here's a guy that, I think Miami has a really good chance of getting as well because he fits the scheme as well. A very wide open type of defensive secondary. The ACC has some big guys, especially coming out of the backfield, and especially tight ends. And that's where safety coverage becomes paramount. Same thing with Aguero. Another guy that, the reason why maybe that a lot of the other schools are after him because he's an elite kid. He's as good as you get in this class. Obviously, a lot of people haven't watched him. I sat there and watched like an hour worth of film on him. He's a gamer. He comes out there. He's a leader. You could see it on the film. You could see the way he plays, the way he, I mean, you can't tell. And this is what I say to people. You can't base your entire evaluation off of film because
Right.
it's the same film that my neighbor gets to watch. What is good, though, is when you talk to people or see them live, get a chance to see what type of character there is. And, I remember talking to Jimbo Fisher when he was an assistant way back in the day at LSU. And the one thing he used to ask me, he always used to say, Larry, I could see how the kid plays just from watching his video and stuff. What type of character does he have? Is he one of those guys, when the offense is on the field, does he rally around the rest of the secondary? And is he one of these guys that kind of like studies, photos of plays and stuff like that? And they want to know that. You can't see that on film. And he's one of those guys that I've talked to a couple of coaches that have played with him, he played for and against, and they all say the same thing. He's a guy you've always got to account for. He's a guy you don't want to throw into his zone. You don't want to run plays towards him because if you remember, they always talked about Lawrence Taylor. Don't run away from him, run towards him because then you got blocking and he's got to choose out. If you run away from him, he's got a chance to come on the backside and do some damage. That's what you see in this guy. Not to say he's Lawrence Taylor, but he's that type of impact at the high school level. I'll tell you, Alex, he's a real get, and that's why Alabama's banking on him. Obviously, as you said, Georgia, but Miami's won a couple of battles already with Georgia, and Miami's already won some
and
battles
Bama as well. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I feel good, but you're always uncertain because of the fact that a lot. At the end of the day, you're going to make up your own decision, but a lot of kids are influenced by people who are saying, "Well, Miami, where did they come from?" Look at Georgia, defending national champs. Look at Alabama. Their room. I mean, everybody in their secondary gets drafted. So there's a lot of forces that you can't deal with, and Miami's been able to deal with them so far. So I feel the same. That they have an opportunity. They have an opportunity because of the way that they've been recruiting. I think each kid, from Rashada all the way down, feels, what, we could be a part of something special. And as the list of players and commits grow, they're better and better and better. And you look at it and go, whoa, wait a minute. They've got some really big time talent. I think right now and I'll tell you the schools like Minnesota and Iowa do as well as anybody when they recruit tight ends. I mean, as well. I mean, Iowa a couple of years ago had 2 tight ends in the first round pick.
That's
so
right.
I think Miami's 3 tight ends that they have are as good as any in the country. I mean, they're all very athletic. They're all very good. A couple of them may even, play on the other side of the ball. So that's what you're looking for. And I think these kids have to buy in. Their coaches, their advisors all have to buy into what Miami's doing. And I think that it's transparent. Mario Cristobal will get you on the phone and he'll talk to you. And he'll say, listen, this is what's up. We have 2 safeties right now. One's a freshman, one's a senior. You got an opportunity to play compete for playing time, and that's how he's always been. And you look at the really good recruiters, and those are guys that don't lie to you. And because there's a lot of guys who want you in their fold so bad, they're going to tell you falsehoods. And when you get on campus, and then all of a sudden he goes, well, he promised me that I'd at least get a look, and I'm not getting a look. Well, this is what this coaching staff is about. And as I said, getting a chance to talk to the coaches and, walking around with them. And when they were talking about, heck yeah, that guy's got a chance, or this guy's got a real good chance of really getting in the 2-3 deep. And when they say that, they mean it. They're not just going to talk to, but there's a lot of coaches that will tell you that just so if I'm talking to somebody, they go, hey, you need to look at the coach. You need to look at Miami. Coach told me that you're going to fit in. Here, you believe it a little bit more.
So when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about a couple of offensive linemen who are announcing in the next few days. Miami is certainly in the mix for both of them. Are they losing ground for one of them? Keep it locked right here to Locked On Canes. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen today and your first watch. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. So later this week, Friday and then Saturday, we're going to see announcements from Olaus Alinen, who I like a lot, plays in Connecticut. He's from Finland, great family. They spent a lot of time down in Miami. And on Saturday, Peyton Kirkland, who's very polarizing among Canes fans out of Orlando, he's announcing. Now, with Olaus, we're getting a little concerned, Blue, because he had seemed like a very heavy trend to Miami. And from what I understand, Nick Saban is pulling out all the stops because that's a player he really wants. And they have stepped up their recruitment for Alinen in recent days. And it's become very split. A few days ago, Alinen felt like a Miami slam dunk. Now it's a lot more 50-50. I think Miami's still very much in the mix. So let's talk about Alinen and Peyton Kirkland. And do you think if Alinen did pick Alabama, would that maybe make it more likely Kirkland might pick Miami Saturday? Could that be a domino where one affects the other?
Well, it's a position where, you could use 8,000 linemen. It's not going to be like the quarterback position or running back position where you got one guy, I mean, and Allen's a beast. He's 6'6", 6'7". He's a real large kid. As you said, he comes from Finland. He's grew up playing soccer, so he's got skill level like Frankie Tenalou does, playing rugby and all those sports like that. So I think that he's one of those guys, and rightfully so. Alabama's been at the top. They produce linemen. They had a first-round draft pick last year in Evan Neal out of Okeechobee in Florida. You take a look who I think that the kid Marigoa is a lot like Frankie. He's a lot like Evan Neal. Yeah. But he's a kid, too, that, he's really athletic, and he comes in here. He's the new breed of lineman, no big belly on him. He's just a big, tall guy who's like an open book. And if you get him with, he's learning technique now, but you get him with, a coach, like Mirabal, I mean, the sky is the limit. Yeah, I mean, you right now that he hesitated means that, someone's in his ear. But I saw Nick roll out the red carpet for Brandon Inniss, and he ended up going to Ohio State. So right. Brandon Inniss and his mom were at Nick's house on the lake. I mean, they were barbecuing in his backyard. So, I mean, how much of a red carpet can you get? He didn't get him. There's been 2 or 3 of them that he's done that for. I mean, Alabama, we're not going to shortchange. They get anybody they want. But I think there's a vibe right now. And I think that where Alinen thinks he could be part of this, whatever program he thinks he could be a part of and maybe make an impact within the next 2 years, I think that's where he'll end up.
Okay. What about Peyton Kirkland? Give me your evaluation on Kirkland, and we'll end on that. There's a couple more players I wanted to get to, but we'll talk about them next time with Blue. Miami fans seem very split on whether they want him or not. How do you evaluate him?
No, I've watched him since the 9th grade. Dr. Phillips guy. I think I relayed this before where I talked to their coach and, Coach Wells, who's a really good dude. I mean, he's up front with me, and he introduced me when the kid was a 9th grader. I went up there for one of their scrimmages during the summer, first couple of practices, and he goes, "See that kid right there?" They call him Big Baby at the time. He's going to be special. He's very athletic. He goes, mark my words, he's going to be a Power 5 kid within the next 2 years. People are going to look at him. And then you see him now. I saw him at a camp this year, a line camp. Great feet, improving upper body strength. He's very athletic. He's the same guy I saw, when he was in 9th grade, just 55 to 60 pounds heavier, gets in the weight room, not afraid to work harder. And that's what Miami needs. And you got to understand too, even though these guys are big time guys, they have to have the work ethic that Mario Cristobal demands. And I'm sure Nick Saban demands it too. But I mean, and other schools do, but you have to understand that he's been that type of guy. It's like I always used to say about some of these, and Jonathan Vilma pointed this out. He says, when you are so much better than everybody else, all your life, and even in high school, you don't learn proper technique because you could overpower people on the line. And as a defensive linebacker, you could just push at people and they go down. You don't have to wrap up. So to me, that's important because from a technical standpoint, Peyton has done that. He's learned a lot from going to camps. He's works extremely hard, working so much on what he has to learn from an offensive line standpoint. And technically, that's what I'm saying. That's where a Mirabal, that's where a Garen Justice. That's what they do. They're technically sound teachers, and that makes all the difference in the world, because you can bench all the 450 pounds you want and you can run real well. But if you don't have technique, you're going to get overpowered all the time on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, no, that's very well said. Make sure you follow this man on Twitter because he's always covering the top players and doing a great job at it. At Larry Blustein. Check out his radio show, South Florida High School Sports Show, Mondays on WQAM 560 in Miami. You can get it on the Odyssey app. You can also get our show on the Odyssey app, so make sure you realize that. Blue, I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for taking the time, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it.
I love it. And guys, make sure you get more on the ACC. And we'll talk a lot more about media days this week. ACC Media Days kicking off today. Get more on the ACC by making Locked On ACC your second listen every day. Candace Cooper and the local experts of Locked On take you across the ACC in 30 minutes. Make Locked On ACC your second listen. We will talk to you guys again tomorrow on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.